The stage lights were warm and unforgiving. Karoline Leavitt sat beneath them on Jon Stewart's live broadcast set, a sleek, darkened studio with a skyline background that gave it the appearance of quiet authority. Cameras panned in slowly. The air was tight with anticipation, the kind that doesn't come from entertainment, but from tension. Political tension. Truth-on-the-line tension. Jon Stewart sat across from her, casual but focused, sleeves rolled up. He wasn't here to joke. Not tonight. "You asked for this," he said, his voice cutting the silence. Unedited. Unscripted. "You'll answer everything?" Karoline nodded once. "No notes, no teleprompter, just what the country deserves." "Then let's start with this," Stewart said, pressing a button. A short video clip played on the studio screens. Bruno's growl, the silent courtroom, the gavel slam. The audience, small and muted for the live segment, leaned in as if trying to hear things behind the footage. "You made a hand signal," Stewart said flatly. "You triggered something. That wasn't normal testimony. That was tactical." Karoline exhaled slowly. It was necessary. Victor Grayson wasn't just a suspect. He was still active, broadcasting during the trial. That signal, it was a command for Brano to listen. To listen? Stewart leaned forward. "Are you saying he detected something in real time?" "Yes," Karoline said. "He recognized a low-frequency code, subaudible, similar to what's used in secure military devices. Only animals trained in surveillance response can detect it. It's a protocol from a black project I oversaw years ago. Project Voxhound." The room chilled. "You're telling us the Trump White House created a covert canine surveillance program?" Karoline looked directly at him. "Yes, and it worked, until someone tried to bury it." Stewart blinked but didn't flinch. "And who tried to bury it?" Karoline looked away for a second, then turned back. "Michael Lanning, my predecessor. He had the Omega lens clearance, the same one that signed Grayson into the White House twice under the radar. We believe Lanning handed Grayson classified protocols, possibly even reactivated parts of the old surveillance program to mask foreign communication inside U.S. government systems." The words dropped like thunder. "But here's the real issue," she said, her voice rising. "These weren't just leaks. These were operations. Live, unchecked, coordinated. And they were meant to stay hidden behind patriotism and performance." Stewart sat back in his chair. "Why didn't you speak up earlier?" Karoline hesitated. "Because I believed in the system. I thought I could fix it from within. But I was wrong." A deep, heavy pause. "Who else knew?" Stewart finally asked. "Someone always knows." Karoline drew in a sharp breath. "I think Judge Harper knew something. Maybe not all of it, but enough. That's why he recessed the trial so fast. He recognized Bruno's training. He was part of an oversight committee that monitored unauthorized surveillance during the 2019-2020 transition." "And you think he panicked?" "No," she said. "I think he realized something we hadn't considered. That what we were fighting wasn't just Grayson or China. It was a network, deep, rooted, maybe even still active." A live comment ticker now ran beneath the screen. Viewers flooded in. "Bruno knows. Project Voxhound." "Where is Lanning?" Karoline leaned forward. "I didn't come here to defend myself. I came here to warn people, because there are still people out there using our own systems against us." "And now?" Stewart asked. "What happens next?" Karoline looked into the camera, steady and sharp. "I want a federal inquiry into Omega Lens, into Victor Grayson's true contacts. I want Michael Lanning located, and I want every agency, from the FBI to NSA, to be held accountable for what they ignored." She paused. "And I'm willing to testify under oath, again, on live television if I have to." The studio stayed silent for a beat too long. Then applause, slow, scattered, but building. Stewart nodded. You may have just started something. I hope I did, Karoline said. Because if I'm right, we're not at the end of this. We're only at the beginning. As the cameras faded to black, Brano stood at her side again, head high, ears alert. And somewhere in a quiet corner of Bogota, Colombia, a man watched the interview replay on a cracked tablet. He wore a white shirt, sunglasses, and a faded Department of Defense lanyard tucked into a drawer next to a burner phone. The man smiled, slightly. Too late, Karoline, Michael Lanning whispered to himself. You finally found the trail, but it's been burning for years. And then he closed the tablet and disappeared into the night. A thin gray drizzle coated the streets of Washington, D.C., giving the capital a damp metallic sheen. Karoline Leavitt sat in the back of a black SUV, her fingers wrapped tightly around a folder marked Top Priority, Classified. Brano sat beside her, alert, his ears twitching at every sound. The city seemed quieter than usual, but it wasn't calm. Something had shifted since her explosive live interview with Jon Stewart. Federal officials were no longer ignoring her. They were circling her. Inside the Justice Department building, a special intelligence briefing had been scheduled with urgency. Karoline was about to meet with a joint task force, FBI, NSA, Cyber Command, and a single observer from the House Intelligence Committee. The room wasn't just full of suits. It was full of fear. She stepped into the chamber. Judge Harper was already there. He rose when he saw her, his face drawn but steady. You made quite a mess on TV, he said. Karoline gave a weary smile. I didn't know the truth had to be clean. FBI agent Ethan Brooks nodded from the corner. She's got guts, he said. And she's right. We've reopened 3 dormant surveillance investigations since that interview aired. A woman from the NSA tapped a screen on the table. Satellite images blinked into view. Heat signatures over a secure naval base. Strange radio signals broadcast at intervals only trained surveillance dogs would respond to. Karoline leaned over the table. That's not random interference. That's an active signal relay. They're using Cold War-era tech to stay invisible, Brooks added. Encrypted with rotating ciphers that mimic animal behavior detection. Military dogs like Brano were trained to sense patterns in ultrasonic bursts. They're using the same methods to hide command sequences in plain sound. The NSA analyst spoke, her voice thin but urgent. These patterns, these bursts, they match those used in Project Voxhound, except these are newer. Someone updated the code. Karoline didn't blink. That means Lanning's alive, and worse. He's working with someone who has access to the Pentagon's current encryption library. A tense silence followed. Then Judge Harper stepped forward, placing a single sheet of paper in front of Karoline. We traced a signal, back to a diplomatic compound in Caracas, Venezuela. It was masked as a Venezuelan agricultural dispatch, but our team ran the metadata. He pointed to the corner of the sheet. There was a string of numbers. Karoline's breath caught. Those aren't metadata tags. That's a Bravo chain command string. Brooks frowned. What's that? Karoline's voice dropped. It's a code used to activate field agents in sleeper cells, American agents, meant for war conditions. A cold chill swept the room. Harper didn't wait. Pack your things. You're going to Caracas. But not alone, Brooks said. I'll go with her, and Brano. Karoline hesitated. If this is what I think it is, we won't just be chasing Lanning. We'll be walking into the heart of an American-made shadow operation. Brooks gave a wry smile. Good. I like drama. The flight was quiet. No words exchanged between Karoline and Brooks as they studied documents and fed Brano from a sealed pouch. The closer they got to Venezuela, the more she felt the old weight return. Not fear, but memory. The way Lanning used to speak in riddles. How he once told her, The most powerful traitor is the one who believes he's still a patriot. By the time the plane touched down, the rain had stopped, but the tension hadn't. Local CIA contacts greeted them, whisking them through customs, and into the back of an unmarked SUV. "This is it," Brooks muttered. The safe house near the compound. Karoline stared out the window. The diplomatic complex in Caracas was heavily guarded, but the building across the street, disguised as a weather station, hummed quietly under layers of false credentials. It was there the signal had originated. "We wait until nightfall," Brooks said, but Karoline shook her head. "No. Lanning knows we're coming. Waiting will just give him time to move." She turned to Brano. "You ready, old boy?" Brano gave a low, determined growl. They entered the weather station quietly, guns raised, flashlights cutting through darkness. The place was abandoned, almost. In the back, a projector flickered on automatically. A pre-recorded video began to play. Michael Lanning stood in a room filled with old equipment, his face tired, his smile cold. "If you're seeing this, Karoline, then you finally did what I always expected. Put the pieces together. You always had the brains, but not the stomach. Let's see if that's changed." Behind him in the video, maps flashed, targets, locations. Then, one word in red, Texas. Lanning continued. "You're chasing the wrong signals. What's coming next isn't about leaks or loyalty. It's about who controls the narrative when the country falls apart." The screen went black. Brooks turned slowly to Karoline. "Texas?" Karoline's face turned pale. "There's a biodefense drill scheduled in Houston next week. Open access, hundreds of agents, thousands of civilians. If someone hijacks that system..." She didn't finish the sentence. Brooks stared at her. "We need to get back now, but